Hello everybody, my name is James Turnipseed, and today we're talking Punk's Dead, SOC Punk 2. So first off, it's not a horrible movie. You can hold SOC Punk up to as high as you want, because it's a good movie, it's an interesting movie, and it's a fun movie. My problem with Punk's Dead is that it's Punk's Dead, SOC Punk 2. So, what do I mean? So technically, SOC Punk is a cult movie. A cult classic, as they like to say it, the Hollywood peoples. So, if you're a fan of cult movies, and I am, like a whole bunch of cult movies, you already know the sequel is not going to be as good as the first movie. Why? Well, because since it's a cult movie, you love it, you're passionate about it, so when they make another one, it's usually not the same, didn't capture the same energy moment type of thing. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like Evil Dead 1 and 2, Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 2. They always do something different, and you're like, what? I want the first one. But you can't get a 2 without the 1. So, that said, take the SLC Punk goggles off and watch it as its own movie with some characters from the first movie that you go, oh hey, kind of like they do with American Horror Story, where you go, I like these characters and these actors, and then they put them in a different setting, much like Kevin Smith's Jay and Silent Bob, how they pop up in every movie he makes almost, and you're like, oh, it's those guys, cool. So that being said, I'll give it a 3 out of 5, just because I felt like they didn't capture the aggression, I didn't connect with too many characters, it felt it's only an hour and 15 minutes and 39 seconds with the credits, so but it's totally worth it. I only paid $10 on Amazon from the pre-order, so I'm totally okay with it. I'm not mad or nothing. But let's get into it. So basically, the movie follows three groups of people. You follow Trish, Emo Shelly, Sean and John, and Eddie. And I say it's three, but it's really five, because Sean and John are together at one spot, and then Eddie shows up later. But you mostly stick with Ross, which is Heroin Bob's son, Crash, and then a girl called Penny. And that's like your Steve-O, Heroin Bob characters from the first movie. And their story, basically they're kids in their 20s, late teenagers is the vibe I got, 16, 17, 18 kind of area where they still live at home type of thing, or like fresh out of high school. But on the commentary, the dude said he's 20, so we'll go with 20. So basically, the story is, and I know spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, I'll put it in the title, so don't worry about it. But spoiler, so Ross is the son of Trish and Heroin Bob. Remember Trish? She was kind of the weird, out there chick from the first movie. You remember if you're watching this. She's still out there. She runs a steampunk, dearly departed shop where they just have weird stuff. And so Ross is this weird, gothic, Edgar Allan Poe-ish character. And that's who we follow. He ends up falling in love with some chick. She cheats on him. He catches him. And much like when Steve-O walked in on that girl, making out or having sex with that dude in that room. I forget her name. Before he met the second chick. Where Bob punches that window and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. In the bathroom. Remember? So it's much like that. And then he goes from a super straight edge kid that's so straight edge you don't even hang out with the straight edge kids. But he hangs out with this gutter punk kid called Crash who has way too many studs on his jacket. But I know people that do that and I've seen them and I'm just like, cool dude. So he hangs out with dude. The only problem is he has that half mohawk thing that I've always hated, where it's like you shave basically your head and then you have the mohawk just on top and then you shave the back. Personally, I never liked that, so I was kind of like, and then Penny is this I guess we'll say street punk chick. She's got Charge GBH on the back, Vice Squad on the side. Uh, her hair is black, and then she's got some braids, and there's pink. So she's really pretty. That Hannah Marks girl. I'll say that. Um, but yeah, so then you follow them, and basically the Ross character is drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, hanging out with these punk kids, and they're going to a show, but he takes them on this weird route where he's like, go through the mountains, and they go through the mountains, and he's just kind of figuring out life because he's a confused teenager that fell in love, she cheated on him, and he always just thought, hey, we're all just gonna die anyways. Like, he's one of those kids that is just like, what's the point of life? We're just gonna die. You know those weird goth kids. So then it flashes back between, so it cuts from Heroin Bob in Limbo, where he's telling the stories like, hey, you remember this guy? And they do flashbacks to, there's scenes from the old movie in it. So they cut to that, like, they explain John the Mod. You remember that guy? He bought drugs off Sean. Hey, we're still going to soccer practice, right? But then he turned into a Norwegian death metal guy, and he's all big and buff, and it's the same dude, so it's like, whoa. But he runs a record store where him and Sean are hanging out and talking, and it cuts to Sean. He works for the state senate, and then he helps the crash kid get out of trouble with the bicycle cop. The dude's actually on bicycles, not motorcycles. So they do that. So he's still the punk that's like the old dude, which I feel like that too. Like, hey, I still listen to music, love music, and I'll go to a show every once in a while, good show, you know. So he's that guy. And then basically the whole time Trish is freaking out because Ross is drinking. And so it's like, you get the mom perspective of, oh no, my son's dad drank and took pills one time and died. So now my son has to fill his shoes. So he's drinking. So oh my god, he's gonna die. And then he ends up going to the punk show, kind of doing a transformation from a goth kid. He doesn't actually transform, but he does mentally, and he hangs out with these punk kids. They go to a show. He gets beat up. And then they have a moment with the mom at the end where he got beat up because he said some stupid thing that would never happen at a show if he went to a show. At a big club show, he gets on stage, stops the guitar player, takes the mic from the singer, says some stuff, gets thrown down, gets beat up. They pull him out, and Sean actually pull him out and take him outside. And then he gets into it with his mom, like, hey, I'm not your dead boyfriend, and she slaps him. And then he's like, I'm not coming home. And then he goes and he's standing on the side with his newfound girlfriend, Penny. They kissed in the show, so it's like, oh, okay. And then Sean is actually having a moment with Trish where he's like, it's gonna be fine. You gotta let go. And we find out that Trish was angry at Bob this whole time for dying and leaving her with the kid to raise by herself. So, me, I'm not a parent, but if you are a parent and you watch this and you watch the first one and you're like, oh yeah, I can see where it's going. It's a good movie. It's a little artsy, but it's a decent movie. Pick it up if you're into it. SOC Punk 2, Punk's dead. Not more to say. Peace.